Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caden Kubler, and thank you guys so much for tuning in to a awesome upcoming stream of Caden's Corner. We've got so much football to talk about. What a weekend, maybe the best weekend of football that we've had so far. I mean, my goodness, it started on Friday night where we saw Florida State inside of the top 10 get knocked off against Virginia in one of the most epic field stormings that I have ever seen. And then Arizona State upsets number 24 ranked TCU. Two top 25 teams go down on Friday night. And then on Saturday, maybe the best college football slate that we've had of the entire year, and probably of the entire year that we'll get. It was absolutely unbelievable. And then on Sunday, we had some unbelievable performances. Ladies and gentlemen, let's break it all down, and we'll start in the NFL world. We had some massive games take place, and I would say one of the most impressive performances that I saw in week one was Jaxson Dart dazzling in his debut. He is all the way here in the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. Jaxson Dart looked unbelievable in his debut. We all understood how Russell Wilson got benched earlier on last week after the Giants started 0-3. So many storylines coming into this year for the New York Giants. We all understand that in the NFL, if you are a head coach, you get about 3 or 4 years, if you're lucky, to really show that you are the guy that you can turn around a culture. And for Brian Daboll, the head coach of the New York Giants, he won in his year one of the tenure of the New York Giants. He won in year one. He won a playoff game with Daniel Jones, and then they kind of struggle. They fall off a little bit, and then they go draft Jaxson Dart this offseason. He's the guy, but it's year 4 of the Brian Daboll era. They've struggled over the last few years. Now you're 0-3, so you've got to make this pivot now to Jaxson Dart, and boy, what a game Dart had. He looked unbelievable, and there was so much coming into this game. Like, when is really the right time to put Jaxson Dart into the season? Because, hey, the Giants probably have the toughest schedule in football, and there really is no ideal or opportune time to put in Jaxson Dart, especially against the Los Angeles Chargers, who have one of the top defenses in football, coached by Jesse Minter. But Jaxson Dart comes in at home. Malik Neighbors unfortunately tears his ACL. Prayers to him. Hopefully he will be back very, very soon. But he goes down, tears his ACL, but Jaxson Dart continues to do his thing, and he looked great. They pulled off a massive win. He gets that huge rushing touchdown, shows off those moves in the end zone. Jaxson Dart with a tremendous performance. 13-20 passing, 111 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and he was very mobile as well. 10 rushes for 54 yards and that touchdown that really opened things up for the New York Giants. And this gives you a lot of life for not only this franchise, but in specific for Brian Daboll and Jaxson Dart. You got to believe that Brian Daboll is going to be the job. You've got to believe that he is going to be the guy that's going to be in New York for a while now with Jaxson Dart, because he turned around Josh Allen when Josh Allen was in Buffalo. Josh Allen was this quarterback that couldn't really get off the ground. He was highly drafted when he was originally selected by Buffalo, but he struggled the first few years for the Bills. Brian Daboll really turns his career around, and that was ultimately why he got this head coaching job for the New York Giants. Now he gets Jaxson Dart. They have this tremendous game. You see them hugging after the game, and you're like, okay, Brian Daboll, he might have just found the guy that's going to save his job. And that's genuinely how I believe the New York Giants are looking at this situation. Like, hey, we've got a guy that can turn around quarterbacks. And for Jaxson Dart and for Brian Daboll and just for the New York Giants as a whole, you've got to feel optimistic there. Now you lose one of the best receivers in football in Malik Neighbors, which is just devastating as a whole for this Giants team. They realistically aren't going to be a true contender in the NFC or in the playoffs as a whole. But hey, they've got their quarterback. They've got a guy for the future. That's at least a positive. You've got one of the toughest schedules in football. I mean, it's an absolute bloodbath. They've got the hardest remaining strength of schedule in the NFL. So if the Giants can just show that Jaxson Dart is going to be a stud, which in week 1, he's already looking like it, you've got to feel good about this team moving forward, because you've got not only Jaxson Dart, who's going to help turn this culture around, but you've got Cam Scatterbo, who's an absolute dog. I mean, he's one of the most fun players to watch in the NFL. And once you get Malik Neighbors back, that's a really good trio off offensively that you can build around. Not to mention on the defensive side of the ball, they have one of the best defensive lines in football with Brian Burns. They drafted Abdul Carter very high in the first round. You still have Kayvon Thibodeau. This is a tremendous defensive line. So you've got some really good pieces if you're the New York Giants to try and build off of for the years to come. And of course, it's a lot easier when you can hit on the quarterback position. And that's ultimately what I believe happened and is happening with Jaxson Dart. This is huge for the New York Football Giants. Just a tremendous win to ultimately beat the Los Angeles Chargers, who, like I said, have one of the best defenses in football. They were able to kind of extinguish this explosive Chargers offense that's really had a lot of success. You could tell that Giants defensive line was really getting after Herbert. They've had a few injuries on that O-line. Obviously, Rashawn Slater tears his pec in the beginning of the season, and then they saw Joe Alt get injured in the first half. He was kind of in a walking boot, but it looks like it's just a sprained ankle. So he should be back at some point in the season. So they kind of dodged a bullet with that one, but a dazzling performance from Jaxson Dart in his debut. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Now, I told everybody, hey, let's take a big deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. The Kansas City Chiefs are just fine. And I was reiterating this after they lost the first game, after they lost the second game. No receivers, no problem. Mahomes gets it done on Sunday Night Football last week. They get on the board. They win their first game of the season, and then they get the playmaker back. They get Xavier Worthy back, and boy, oh boy, did this Chiefs offense look like a completely different unit with Xavier Worthy back in the lineup, and they are just scratching the surface, ladies and gentlemen. They dominate the Baltimore Ravens 37-20. Patrick Mahomes, 270 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Are you kidding me? This offense looked unbelievable. And this is why I get so excited about the Kansas City Chiefs, because we know the defense is going to be great with Steve Spagnuolo. We understand that they have the best player in football in Patrick Mahomes, the best head coach in football in Andy Reid, and they've got pieces offensively, but they were banged up, suspensions, you name it. They get Worthy back. He leads the team in rushing. He leads the team in receiving. He has a career high in receiving yards. He was a big play maker for the Chiefs overall. And then you're going to get Rashee Rice back after week 6. I think overall this Chiefs team is going to be unbelievable. And like I'm trying to tell you guys, the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. They will be just fine. They're now 2-2. You feel really, really good about what they can do in the upcoming weeks. They've got the Jaguars on the road on Monday Night Football next week. You can chalk that up as a win. And then they're at home against the Lions. If they can be 3-3, at the worst, before they get Rashee Rice back, ladies and gentlemen, this team is going to be a playoff contender. And once they get into the dance, it's over for the rest of the NFL. And I've been trying to say that. You can't convince me that there is a player that you'd be more terrified of other than number 15. And that's exactly how I feel about the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes. And Kansas City is going to win the Super Bowl. That's genuinely how I feel. The defense is one of the best in football. You finally have got all the receivers coming back. The schedule is tough, yes, but you can beat anybody. You just dominated Baltimore. You just dominated them and embarrassed them. And I don't know for Baltimore right now how you're going to recover from this. The schedule's easy. You've still got Lamar. He's got the hamstring injury. He should be fine. But realistically, the Baltimore Ravens are the Boston Celtics of the last few years before they won the championship. They've got the superstar player, Jason Tatum, Lamar Jackson. They've got the player that is so great throughout the regular season, but tends to struggle a little bit in the playoffs. Tatum obviously kind of got that monkey off his back overall when he won the championship with the Celtics. But you've got one of the best rosters in basketball, one of the best rosters in football with all pros everywhere, Pro Bowlers everywhere. Once they finally get to that point where, hey, you're going to win a championship, you're going to be in the playoffs against some of the great competition, you ultimately lose. And that was what happened with the Celtics. They had to cut their teeth for so long. We've seen it with the Ravens for so long now. And we're finally seeing this almost climax for the Ravens. Can they ever get it done? Nobody cares what they do in the regular season. Nobody cares what they do from weeks 1 to week 18. What matters is what this team is going to do in the postseason. Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP. In terms of the regular season, he has the best quarterback rating in NFL history. He's arguably, if not the best rushing quarterback in the history of the game. He's one of the best regular season quarterbacks that the National Football League has ever seen. But nobody cares what he does in the regular season anymore if it does not translate to this team actually winning championships. So, hey, this team right now, they've got all the talent in the world. Can they finally get over the hump? I'm having question marks right now because Lamar Jackson is now 1-6 against Patrick Mahomes. When is that ever going to translate to wins in the postseason? You can't tell me that you feel good about Josh Allen going on the road and beating Patrick Mahomes. He's never done it before. You can't tell me that you feel good about Lamar Jackson, whether he's at home or on the road, trying to beat Patrick Mahomes in the big moment. No quarterback can do it. So why do we feel right now, with the Ravens being at 1-3, they were 0-2 last year. They still ultimately ended up making the postseason. Yes, Mark Andrews has that drop and everyone wants to blame him. But hey, at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson had 2 turnovers in that divisional game. Guess how many Josh Allen had? He had 0. Josh Allen did not turn the football over in the divisional round. And I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson is a bad player or is bad in the playoffs, but hey, 2 turnovers, that's unacceptable. And at the end of the day, when you're Josh Allen, when you're Patrick Mahomes, and you don't turn the football over because in the big moments you play to your best level, that's where Lamar Jackson has to be. And as of right now, how am I supposed to genuinely feel like Lamar can actually get over that hump and knock off the Chiefs and the Bills? How am I supposed to feel that way? Because he's never done it before, and he's lucky that Joe Burrow got injured. The Steelers, I think they're fool's gold right now. They've got the easy schedule. It's going to get really tough in the second half of the year. The Ravens will win this division. But as a matter of fact, they are so lucky that Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are not fully healthy right now, or else, hey, I think the Bengals would not only be the winner of the AFC North, but I think they could go on the run because Joe Burrow is the only quarterback in the NFL that's been able to beat Patrick Mahomes, and they finally started hot. They finally go 2-0. The defense didn't look terrible, and Burrow gets a turf toe injury that's going to keep him out for 3 months, and it's evident right now they need a quarterback other than Jake Browning if they're just going to stay afloat and maybe give Burrow a chance. But the Ravens right now, they are so fortunate that the Cincinnati Bengals aren't 100% and don't have Joe Burrow in the fold, because if they did, I don't know if they'd win this division. But hey, the schedule is going to get easy for Baltimore. They'll win football games. Everybody's going to forget about this, but the only thing that I can keep in my head and the only thing that I can really remember is like, hey, is this team ever going to do it? Is this team ever going to get over the hump? Because Lamar Jackson is such a wildly talented quarterback. We all understand that. He is one of the most fun players to watch in the league. I don't think there's any other quarterback in terms of the regular season. We're watching Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson play at historic rates in the regular season. But at the end of the day, if number 15 is in the playoffs, nobody is going to get past him. And that's how it's been throughout the entirety of Mahomes' career. You know that if Patrick Mahomes is healthy and if he's playing football, which he has every single year of his career outside of the rookie year where he sat behind Alex Smith, you understand that if Mahomes is playing football in the National Football League, the AFC Championship is the bare minimum that he'll get to. He just wakes up week 1 and says, okay, I'm already in the AFC Championship. Let's go see if I can three-peat. Let's go see if I can get back to the Super Bowl. Let's go see if I can become the GOAT, because that is what Patrick Mahomes does on a yearly basis, and that's what we're witnessing right now. He's going to go down as the second greatest quarterback in NFL history. He's going to win more Super Bowls to come, and I believe the next Super Bowl that Mahomes will win will come this year. And so I hope everybody enjoyed laughing at Patrick Mahomes when they were 0-2 after 2 weeks. Oh, Mahomes, who's he going to throw the ball to? The same thing happened 3 years ago. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Oh, this defense, are we sure it can hold up? Are we sure Mahomes can go on the road and win in the postseason? Wins another Super Bowl this year. Oh, the Chiefs, they're 0-2. They didn't three-peat last year against the Eagles. The first 3-game losing streak of Mahomes' entire career. The dynasty is finally over with. That was what everyone was saying after 3 straight losses from the Chiefs, after they didn't three-peat, after they lose 2 games this season with local YMCA receivers that Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball to. What do we expect from him here? They have no run game right now with Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, the first 3 weeks of the season, was the leading rusher for this team. Xavier Worthy, who is, newsflash, a wide receiver, he comes in for the Chiefs and he's the leading receiver. Now in week 4, where's the run game for the Chiefs? How do you want Mahomes to overcome that hurdle? Not only that, Rashee Rice gets suspended for 6 weeks because of the incident off the field that he got involved in. Then we don't see Xavier Worthy play for the first 3 weeks because him and Travis Kelce run into each other on the 3rd offensive play of the season in Brazil. Mahomes doesn't have his top 2 receivers, and he's throwing to Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton, and Hollywood Brown. What do you expect from Patrick Mahomes here? Not only that, they have no run game. Mahomes is the leading rusher. Like, everything that could possibly go wrong for the Chiefs went wrong, and they still almost beat the Chargers, who, newsflash, they might win the AFC West, and they won 11 games last year, and they look really good this year. They lose by 6 points then. They play the reigning defending champs, where if Travis Kelce doesn't bobble the ball off his chest and give it right to Makuba, who returned it to the 50-yard line, the Chiefs might win that game too. That's how close they were from being 4-0 right now if it weren't for just all of this freakish stuff going on. And that's why I believe that nobody's going to stop the Kansas City Chiefs, because they win 15 games last year, but it's one-score games. We don't like how they win. Who's Mahomes going to throw the ball to a few years ago? They win the Super Bowl. Mahomes has got to go on the road for the first time in his playoff career. He beats Josh Allen. He beats Lamar Jackson. What else do you need to see from Patrick Mahomes to make you believe that anyone can possibly beat him in the NFL? Because I've seen enough. I have seen enough for the last few years to make me say, hey, I'm never going to bet against this guy. And when people do bet against him, and when people do fuel his fire, this is only going to make me stand 10 toes down with Mahomes, because I'm like, man, nobody's stopping this guy. And that's genuinely how I feel right now about the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Nobody's going to stop this team. Wait till they get Rashee Rice back. I can't wait to see what the Chiefs look like come week 10, because, hey, as a matter of fact, they'll probably be the number 1 seed in the AFC West. They'll probably be a top 1 or 2 seed in the AFC as a whole. They'll beat the Bills later this season. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs. They're the best team in the NFL, and they will win the Super Bowl. All right, let's run through some of the other games in the NFL. We'll run through the doubleheader on Monday Night Football that we've got tonight, and then we will talk about maybe the greatest slate of college football that we will see the entirety of this year. Oh my goodness, Penn State, Georgia. I mean, we've got some crazy teams and crazy games to talk about. All right, let's recap Sunday real quick here, and we'll start on Sunday Night Football. The NFL needs to abolish overtime. That was just such a buzzkill to end that game with a 40-40 game. Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, such high-level quarterback play. We all understand the massive narratives and storylines coming into this game. Like, hey, Micah Parsons gets traded, one of the biggest trades in NFL history. He's back in Jerry's world, and we get to see the spectacle that is the Dallas Cowboys against the Green Bay Packers. No CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens was unbelievable. What a game. I mean, what a game to say the least. This was like a heavyweight fight, just haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. And there was a few conclusions that I came away with after this game. But the main thing that I took away from this game is that Dak Prescott is an elite quarterback. And I know it's so easy to hate on the guy. It's so easy to criticize the guy. It's so easy to say, he's not a premier quarterback, because, hey, he is being paid $60 million. He's one of the he is the highest paid player in NFL history. And he gets injured last year. He plays for Dallas. There's so much ammo, I guess, to really go after Dak Prescott. And the main conclusion that I took away after watching that Sunday Night Football game is that Dak Prescott is an elite quarterback. Dak Prescott can will a team to victory. He doesn't have one of the top receivers in football. I think you could say CeeDee Lamb's probably the 3rd or 4th best receiver. I would say it's probably Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I'm fine with 1A, 1B there. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I think you could put Puka Nacua at 3. And if you don't want to put Puka at 3, you could put CeeDee Lamb at 3. I'm fine with that variation of the top 4 regardless. the Dallas Cowboys were missing one of the premier superstar wideouts in the NFL. And Dak Prescott goes in there and has one of the best games that I've ever watched him play. There was this one throw where he was by midfield. He's rolling all the way right. It was literally like a fadeaway half-court shot. He gets it all the way to Tolbert, I believe, on the sideline, and it was just a ridiculous catch. Actually, I believe it was either Tolbert or Kevontae Turpin, but this was just a fadeaway jump shot from Dak Prescott. One of the prettiest throws and catches I've seen of the entire season and of Dak Prescott's career, as a matter of fact. But he looked so good. 31 of 40, 319 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. The offensive line kept him really clean, only 1 sack. That was the one where Micah came all the way around, and they said that was a sack because apparently if you get tackled for a no loss, if it's just a zero, if it's just an overall donut on the play, they still count that as a sack. So Micah gets the sack there, even though Dak was rolling out and trying to run it in for the touchdown. But great game from Dak Prescott. The dude is 100% elite. And what I think everyone forgets in the entire equation when it comes to Dak Prescott is, yes, he has that star on his helmet, so everybody's going to criticize him. Everybody's going to constantly go after Dak Prescott whenever he has a bad game, whenever we see anything. The Cowboys are always on prime time, and we know we're quick to forget 2 years ago, he came in second in MVP voting. And then last year he has that season-ending injury where literally his hamstring comes off of the bone. He has to rehab back from that. And, Dak Prescott, he just gets so much criticism. He gets so much hate, but he genuinely is a top 7 or 8 quarterback in football. That was something that you got to look at, the performance last night. And I know, and this is why I think the NFL needs to abolish ties, because it was so ridiculous with that type of game that it's going to end in a 40-40 game. Like, somebody's got to win that football game regardless. But the way that Dak Prescott played, I wanted to see the Cowboys win that football game so bad so that I could come on here on Monday and say Dak Prescott is the type of quarterback that you can win because of. And there's only a handful of them in the NFL. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is one of them. I think you can win just because of Lamar Jackson. Definitely Josh Allen. I think you can win because of Joe Burrow. I would say Joe Burrow is definitely fair to put up in that conversation. And then it's like, do we want to put Justin Herbert up there? I don't know if people do because of the postseason woes. I think you can put Dak Prescott in that conversation, which may sound crazy to say. And maybe everyone's going to think, I need a drug test. But I promise you I don't. I do believe that Dak Prescott is one of those guys that you can win because of, and he proved that last night. The Packers have one of the best defenses in football. We've seen them absolutely stymie some of the best offenses in the league. Hey, the Detroit Lions in week 1 put up 13 points. One of the best offenses in football with Amon-Ra, Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Tesla, Jameson Williams, one of the best offensive lines in football. They put up 13 points against this Packers defense. Then you look at the Washington Commanders in week 2. They only put up 18 points against this Packers defense. You're telling me the Dallas Cowboys put up 40 points against this defense without one of the best wideouts in football? I think it's okay to say that Dak Prescott is one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, and you can win because of Rain Dakota Prescott. What an unbelievable performance for the Green Bay Packers. This is a game you're supposed to win, supposed to get to 3-1. You should have beat the Cleveland Browns. And I understand, I'll give you a little bit of a hall pass because you don't have Jaden Reed. You don't have Christian Watson. He's coming back from the torn ACL from last year. He should be back here in a few weeks. Matthew Golden's really starting to come on nice here for Green Bay, and this is why he was taken in the first round. Such a speedster, such a great threat on the outside for Jordan Love. And this offense will get better. It will get a lot better once you get those weapons back. But right now, this team is like bipolar. They can't just continue to play great football for 17 weeks. They've got to, get you excited the first 2 weeks of the season. They win these 2 great games against 2 tremendous opponents in week 1 and 2. They beat the Lions. They beat the Commanders, 2 teams that were in the playoffs last year. Jaden Daniels gets to the NFC Championship with the Commanders. We have the Lions winning 15 games last year. And then everybody's saying that the Packers are the team to beat in the NFC. They actually became the number 1 team in terms of odds in the NFC after they won both of those games. And then they lose to the Cleveland Browns off of just a fluky fourth quarter. They were up 10-0 and then they gave up 13 points, get a field goal block. They lose in week 3. And then for them to tie on Sunday Night Football, it just feels like this Packers team is bipolar. You don't know which version of Green Bay is going to show up in the big moments. And I think that's the biggest disappointment, I would say, so far for the Green Bay Packers. And if you guys are familiar with my content at all, you would understand that, hey, I like to buy low on teams. I don't like to get too over emotional or overreact too much after a week, after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs. I'm telling you, I was calm on them for the entirety of the offseason, for the first 2 weeks of the season. Look at Caleb Williams. I was patient with him the entirety of last year and then the first 2 weeks of this season, and he's turning it around. If you know my content at all, I buy low on players and I hold the stock, and I really do believe that we need to be more patient as a society. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say here is that we need to really look at the Green Bay Packers right now and be like, are we sure about this team? Because you've got some great teams in the NFC. And that's the only reason why I'm a little bit hesitant. Like the Los Angeles Rams, I understand they just lost to the Eagles and they really had just a complete disaster in the second half of that game against the Eagles. They should have won that, but they have looked really good. They just beat the Colts, and we'll talk about them a little bit, but man, the Rams look really good. And then you have the Buccaneers, who are super, super banged up right now. They just lose in the very end to the Eagles as well. And of course, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, who just won the championship and who are just unbelievable. Of course, you've got the Detroit Lions now, who are really coming on strong. You've got a lot of really good teams in the NFC. And for the Green Bay Packers, they can't afford to have these performances where they're all the way up here and then they're all the way down here, because Jordan Love, he had 3 interceptions in the playoffs last year. So I'm a little hesitant right now. I'm just a little hesitant. That's not to say I'm jumping off the ship or that I don't like Green Bay. I said the entirety of this offseason, I believe Jordan Love can be a dark horse Heisman contender and that he's going to get a lot better. This offense is going to look a lot better. Let's reassess the situation for the Green Bay Packers when week 9, week 10 rolls around and we're about halfway through the year and we get a larger sample size per se for this team, because I do believe that they will be in the playoffs. I do believe that they can contend for a Super Bowl, but can they realistically put 4 games of great football against great opponents together? Because you're going to have to win in the wild card round. You're going to have to win in the divisional round. You're going to have to win in the conference championship. And then of course, you've got to go win in the Super Bowl. Are we confident enough that this team can put together 4 terrific performances when the best is asked of them, when they're going up against some of the best offenses in football, when they're going up against some terrific teams? Are we sure that the Green Bay Packers can do that? Because after week 4, I'm asking questions. I'm asking questions. I'm not jumping off the ship, but I am definitely asking questions. This was just not the week 4 performance, not the bounce back you wanted to see, especially because they were up 13-0. They get that PAT block. Dallas returns it for 2. They really start to pick up some momentum. Dak heats up. They get that huge strip sack at the end of the first half. Dak throws that touchdown. They take the lead, and it was like the entire game basically swung off of 2 plays. It was first that PAT that got blocked, and then it was ultimately the strip sack that led to the touchdown. So really, really big plays overall for the Green Bay Packers, and just really a disappointing performance from them overall. All right, let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. They've looked great. They really have looked good so far. And I know they haven't necessarily dominated any teams that they've been playing. A close win over the Cowboys, 24-20, a close win over the Chiefs, 20-17, a close win over the Rams, a comeback win. They block 2 field goals. 33-26, and now a 1-score win against the Buccaneers. So that's now 4 1-score victories for the Philadelphia Eagles. They haven't been pretty. People have been criticizing the way that they have been winning. This reminds me a lot of the Kansas City Chiefs of the last few years. Everybody criticizes the way you win. Everybody doesn't like how you win. But hey, at the end of the day, when the season's over with, you win 15 games just like the Chiefs did last year. They're already 4-0, and they've played 3 really good teams back to back to back, and the Eagles are still winning. And that's an encouraging sign. If AJ Brown is upset, he released some cryptic tweet after the game yesterday. I don't really know how to break that down per se, but it doesn't matter how this team wins. And that's what I've been trying to say. I said that after week 2. Like, they would rather be 4-0 than 2-2 last year. Everybody was criticizing them last year. Oh, they don't have enough. They're 2-2, fire Sirianni. And then it's like, okay, they're 4-0 and people are still criticizing them. When is it going to be enough? Do they have to beat every team by 10 touchdowns in order for anyone to be happy, or in order for anyone to consider this team a contender? Because I feel like what's going to happen is we're going to be, in the divisional round, we're going to be in the wild card round, and we're going to be like, okay, well, the Eagles are the number 1 seed. They won 16 games. They won 15 games, but we don't like the way they win. Are we sure they can do it? They're in the playoffs. They won 15 games. This is the National Football League. If you win, and you're just fine. So that's how I view the Philadelphia Eagles right now. They're winning games, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to win games. They're going to be just fine. We all understand, hey, if Jalen Hurts goes 0 for 8 and doesn't complete a pass in the second half, which is absolutely wild. Jalen Hurts did not complete a pass in the second half. That is crazy to wrap your head around. 0 passing yards, 0 completions, absolutely nuts. And they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road. That is insanity. Saquon Barkley rushed for 2,000 yards last year. I believe he was the 7th ever running back to do that. It doesn't matter how the Eagles win, ladies and gentlemen. They win. They don't overcomplicate winning. They've never overcomplicated winning. That's why, since Nick Sirianni was hired in 2021, that's why he is the 2nd most regular season wins in the NFL. That's why he is the 2nd most playoff wins. That's why he's been to the Super Bowl twice. And that's why they just won the Super Bowl this past year. And that's why they're one of only 2 teams right now that is still 4-0, because they don't overcomplicate winning. They don't give a crap about how they win. And that's the great part about the Philadelphia Eagles. They don't care how they do it. They're just going to keep winning, and people are going to continue to criticize them. And as long as they're winning, people are going to say, we don't like the way they're winning. Why do you care? Why do you care how they win? They're going to win, and they're going to be just fine. The Philadelphia Eagles are now 4-0. They're an absolute buzzsaw, and it blows my mind that people are still criticizing this team. In one of the best games of the weekend, the Indianapolis Colts went on the road against the Los Angeles Rams. Los Angeles, they looked really good. They looked great. Really, really good victory overall. Puka Nacua, this guy might be the offensive player of the year already. The dude is unbelievable. He leads the NFL in receptions. He leads the NFL in yards. He has just been on another level right now. And for the performance that he had yesterday, 13 receptions, 170 yards, 1 touchdown. He was all over the place. And Matthew Stafford is just still cooking, even though he's getting up there in age. He's 37. The dude is still cooking like crazy. 29 for 41, 375 yards, 3 touchdowns. You've got Puka absolutely feasting. This is a really, really good Rams team. And I was watching Jared Verse absolutely dominate this Colts defense. There was this one play where he just bull rushed the center. Just put him on his behind and flew like he was like Ray Lewis or Troy Polamalu after Daniel Jones trying to get the sack, and somebody else came and cleaned it up. And then there was another play where he just bull rushed the defensive lineman, got right past him, strip sacked Danny Dimes. Ultimately, the Colts hopped on it, but that moved it all the way to like a 3rd and 30. Colts had to punt 2-2 Atwell. This game is signed, sealed, and delivered. The Los Angeles Rams are 3-1. This team has been so encouraging offensively, and one of the reasons why I'm so excited for them overall is because they have one of the best defenses in football. We all understand the Los Angeles Rams, they're great offensively. Sean McVay, offensive mastermind. I don't know if outside of Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, I don't know if there's any other coach, and I think you can even make the argument for McVay over Harbaugh. I don't know if there's any coach outside of Sean McVay and Andy Reid that I would rather have over those two. That's the type of pedigree and prestige that goes around the name Sean McVay. So we all understand they're going to be a super great offensive team. Matthew Stafford still at 37, definitely still a top 10 quarterback in football. I think you can make the argument that he is the second best quarterback in the NFC, right behind Jalen Hurts. I think you can make the argument he's the best quarterback in the NFC, to be quite honest with you, with both of them having a Super Bowl. I would probably put him over Jalen Hurts, even though he's 37. He's still absolutely doing it. 375, 3 touchdowns. I mean, Matthew Stafford is in the kitchen cooking. But we all understand the Rams are going to have a great offense. You get Devontae Adams. He's been unbelievable. Puka Nacua might win Offensive Player of the Year. Maybe the best in the world as a wideout. But guess what? This defense is vicious. They are so unbelievably good. The D-line is tremendous. They're slowing down the run game. Saquon Barkley last year had 2 games against the Rams. In those 2 games, he had 460 yards and he had 4 touchdowns. Last week, when they played him, he only had like 46 yards. Huge improvement. Now, yes, they did have a really bad second half. They absolutely collapsed, and the Eagles come back and win that game. But for the Rams, I mean, man, this offense, nobody's been able to stop them. The defense has looked a million times better, and I think you can make a serious argument that this is a top 3 defensive line in football with Byron Young, with Jared Verse. You've got some absolute beasts up front, and they are wreaking havoc on opposing offenses. They looked really good. They definitely dodged a bullet. This was a dogfight. Adonai Mitchell fumbling that ball out of the end zone and then getting that holding call on that long run from Jonathan Taylor. Definitely the ball was bouncing their way against the Colts, but hey, sometimes that's how it goes in the NFL. You'll take your wins how you get them. I want to be optimistic here about the Colts. I was really impressed with the game that they had. I thought they were fool's gold coming into this game. 3-0. They looked good, but they really hadn't beat anybody impressive. And I really felt like this was going to be the game that showed me if they were a true contender or not. And I felt they played a really impressive performance. Daniel Jones played his tail off. He's really looked good this year. Jonathan Taylor's having an incredible season as well. And, if Adonai Mitchell doesn't fumble that ball out of the end zone or doesn't get that holding call against Jonathan Taylor, this can go the exact opposite way for the Colts. I do think they are a good football team. They are a very solid football team. It's going to be really interesting to see how this AFC South comes to a close, because you got the Colts right now who are 3-1. You've got the Jaguars who are 3-1, and by crazy surprise, you've got the Texans who are 1-3, and then the Titans who are 0-4 as well. So this is going to be a really, really fun race in the AFC South to see how everything kind of boils down there. But an impressive performance, to say the least, for the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, you hate to lose a game like that. You hate to really have 3 plays that kind of decide everything. It's the holding, the fumble, and then the Tutu Atwell, like 90, 80-yard touchdown. You hate to lose off of those 3 plays, but there's a lot to build off of, in my opinion, if you are the Indianapolis Colts. But the Los Angeles Rams continue to steamroll. They now tie things up where they're going to have an opportunity on Thursday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers to take firm control of the NFC West. The Niners have just been so battered with injuries. Yesterday was a tough performance. They should have won that game 10 times out of 10. Just drops left and right. Purdy, 2 interceptions. One of them gets tipped. He fumbles on the very end. It was just a really disappointing performance, to say the least, for this 49ers offense. And now Ricky Pearsall is injured. Juwan Jennings is injured. Just when you thought this team maybe had some life, maybe they can catch a break, Bosa tears his ACL. It is a revolving door of injuries. We'll see if Purdy even plays this week, but just so disappointing for the Niners overall. And we'll see what they can do the rest of the year, because they've got an easy schedule. But if they can't stay healthy, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this team. The next 2 weeks are going to be tough. On the road against the Rams, on the road against the Bucs. This team could very well be sitting 3-3 after 6 weeks, and they've got an easy rest of the schedule after that. But you've got to start winning some of these games, and you should be 4-0 right now. No reason for you to drop that week 4 game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, let's move into Monday Night Football. We've got a doubleheader tonight. Not a great slate of games on Monday night. We've got the Miami Dolphins hosting the New York Jets, two winless teams. Aaron Glenn and company traveling up to Miami. This is going to be an interesting one. I hope you guys are excited. This is a great game that we're going to see here. Man, the AFC East really blown everybody away with how impressive these teams look. I believe Justin Fields will finally be back this week, which will be a big addition overall for the Jets. Feels like Mike McDaniel's got to win this one. I've been a big advocate for Mike McDaniel. I believe he will be the scapegoat in this entire situation because I do think the inevitable is probably coming. I do think he'll ultimately probably get the boot, and I'm not calling for his job. I do think he's a great offensive coach, and he's the fact that he was able to revive Tua's career was, just an incredible feat in itself. But the fact that he's going to get fired, I think, is really, really just not right, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And it feels like the Dolphins have got to win this game right now. They've got to get some momentum going because, hey, out of 3 of the next 4 weeks, you feel like this team should be able to take care of some of these games. You're at home against the Jets. You're on the road against the Panthers. You're at home against the Chargers. Then you're on the road against the Browns. I mean, realistically, you should be 3-4 after 7 weeks if you want to give yourself a chance. But hey, we'll see what Miami can do. They've played some good teams so far. Buffalo on the road, I really felt that they competed well. The Colts, they're just a really good football team right now. But the schedule's tough. We'll see what Miami can do. I like them to win tonight, actually. I like them to get their first win of the season. And then an hour after that, we get the Broncos at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. This should be an interesting one overall. I think, personally, it's just such a bummer for Cincinnati, the fact that they don't have Burrow, because it's like these are games that they should be winning. I mean, I would have them at 4-0 right now if they had Burrow against the Vikings and here against the Broncos. I think the Broncos win this one big. It looks like they're 7.5-point favorite. I think they're going to get a dominant victory tonight. I don't have much faith in Cincinnati. This offensive line's bad. The defense is bad. Outside of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, there's just not a lot to get super excited about. So we'll see if they can keep this one close. I would love for them to win it and try and just win as many football games and build yourself as big of a cushion as possible before you can get Joe Burrow back. But things are getting away from them very, very quick. And I think overall they lose this game. They drop to 2-2. So we'll see what the Monday night games have in store for us. Not the most exciting slate of games on a Monday night. Not necessarily the best. Let's talk about some college football. What a weekend it was in college football. I mean, it was unbelievable. We saw so many different ranked matchups. We saw Oregon in double overtime knock off Penn State. We saw Alabama go into Georgia. Always a tremendous matchup and affair whenever these two teams play each other. Alabama on the road pulls off a huge win, virtually saving their season. I felt that was a must win for the Crimson Tide. They get it done over the Georgia Bulldogs. We saw LSU go on the road in Oxford, Mississippi. They drop to the 13th ranked Ole Miss Rebels. Trinidad Chambliss doing his thing. ASU gets a huge win over 24th ranked TCU. Virginia knocks off 8th ranked Florida State. What a weekend it was in college football. So many great games. This was definitely the best slate of the season. I mean, just so many really, really great games. We'll start on Friday. We saw Florida State 8th ranked in the country lose a huge one to Virginia. Really felt like they should have won this one. They turned the ball over 2 times in the first quarter, and that was ultimately the death of them. Tough. You really wanted that game. It felt like they probably overlooked Virginia because you knew that they were going to be hosting Miami that next week, and that was going to give themselves a huge opportunity to emerge as one of the top teams in the nation. They ultimately choke it to Virginia. I think they probably just were looking ahead too much. It's going to be a great game, though, against Miami this upcoming weekend. The defense was really, really rough. I think we're going to get an absolute offensive explosion this next week. I think it's a shame College Game Day's not going to the Florida State-Miami game, but Florida State still a lot in front of them, still everything in front of them. They're 0-1 in the ACC. Not a great start, but when you look at their ACC schedule, they've really got nobody else that's going to give them much of a run for their money. So I expect them to still be in the ACC championship. You've got to take care of business against Miami, and it's going to be tough, but I think they can make the ACC championship at 0-2. They're very, very fortunate that Clemson is 0-2 in the ACC and that they've really fallen off a cliff, because outside of them, we'll see what Georgia Tech can do. But I still believe that Florida State ultimately will be in the ACC championship, but you'd love to see them pull off a huge win against Miami. That'll probably be the game of the weekend this upcoming week. Then we saw Arizona State get a huge win over TCU, down 17-0 in the second quarter. Sam Leavitt, Jordan Tyson, the best quarterback to wide receiver duo in college football. They put the team on their back. They get a huge win, a tremendous defensive performance in the second half, and in specific in the fourth quarter, turnover after turnover after turnover for Josh Hoover and the Texas Christian Horned Frogs. Great win for Arizona State. They're 4-1. 2-0 in the Big 12. They really needed this win. They've got two really impressive victories in the Big 12 as of right now. They beat Baylor on the road with a really impressive offense, and then they get this big-time win over TCU. They're going to head into their bye week at 4-1. You look at Mississippi State. They should have ultimately beat Tennessee and moved on to 5-1, and if Arizona State doesn't have just an epic collapse on that final drive, Arizona State could be 5-0 right now, and they could be viewed as, a potential top 5 team in the country, because they were top 10 at a certain point before that ultimate loss. I felt the rankings, the AP voters really, really kind of hosed them with the just leaving them out of the top 25 after they lost to Mississippi State. But what can you do about it? ASU, big time win. They're back inside of the top 25. We had an incredible slate on Saturday. Your boy's getting parched. All right. Penn State. When are they ever going to do it? I genuinely don't know when they're ever going to do it. They're now 3-1. They lose to Oregon in double overtime. The offense was pathetic through the first, 50-ish minutes of the game. They couldn't get anything to go. 3 points. They could not do anything. Oregon, Dan Lanning, Dante Moore, they're a buzzsaw. They're really good. I said at the beginning of the year, I felt that Dante Moore was a dark horse Heisman candidate. He looked unbelievable. Oregon looked great. I have all the faith in the world right now in them. But the question I keep asking myself with Penn State is, when are they ever going to do it? When are they ever going to get over the hump? James Franklin is now 4-21 when he plays top 10 teams in the country. He's just consistently struggled when they have to play the big teams in the big moments. They get a whiteout. They get all of this juice, all of this buzz, college game days there. You feel great about Penn State. You feel great about their opportunities to try and win this game. And for them to ultimately lose this one, it's the same old Penn State team, I fear. And you know what? I picked this team to win the national championship. And this does not instill very much confidence in me for them to now lose this one again, with Michigan not being one of the top teams in the Big Ten, with Ohio State, regardless of if you like it or not. Yeah, they're the number 1 team in the country, but I think we can all agree they're not the same Ohio State team that they were last year on that dominant path to winning a national championship. You felt like Penn State was the cream of the crop in the Big Ten, and for them to lose to Oregon, yes, is a tremendous team, but for them to lose in the Big Ten championship to Oregon, for them to lose in the college football playoff, it's just a revolving door for Penn State, and I'm questioning when they are ever going to be able to win the big time games in the big moments under James Franklin. I don't know when it's ever going to happen, and it's really a shame because I picked them to win the national championship. I don't know when it's ever going to happen. All right, Alabama, Georgia, tremendous game as well. This was a must-win game for Alabama. You had to have it considering they were already 3-1, and you look at the upcoming schedule. This week, they're hosting 16th-ranked Vanderbilt. Then the next week, they're on the road against 19th-ranked Missouri. Then they are at home against 15th-ranked Tennessee. Then you're on the road against South Carolina. Then you're at home against LSU. Then you're at home against Oklahoma. Then you're on the road against Auburn. Oh my goodness, it does not end for Alabama. The schedule is so brutal, but you had to have this win, ladies and gentlemen. If you are the Alabama Crimson Tide, if you wanted to give yourself any chance at making the college football playoff, with Kalen DeBoer. Now they're up 7 spots. They're 3-1. They're 10th in the country. Huge win overall for the Crimson Tide. And you've got to feel excited because you've got a big time opportunity these next 2 weeks to really get yourself some big wins over Vanderbilt, over Missouri. And I think you can even beat Tennessee at home. And quite frankly, I think you could beat South Carolina on the road. I think Alabama's got to go 4-0 in this next 4-game stretch if they want to have a legitimate shot at making the college football playoff, because I just don't know if 9-3 gets you in again and you're already 1-1. Yes, you're 1-0 in the SEC, but man, the SEC is a bloodbath. And you look at how good Ole Miss is doing. They don't even play Ole Miss this year. The SEC is so tough, so many great teams. You've really got to see Alabama capitalize on some of these games that they are going to be the favorites in, the games that they're at home in. Huge for them to go on the road, pull off this win against Georgia. What an unbelievable weekend of games, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it was picture perfect. Amazing games Friday night, amazing games Saturday, all day. The best probably college football slate that we've seen of the entire year, and just a great game and great slate overall on Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, football is the best. I can't believe we're already 5 weeks into the college football season. We are nearly halfway through the college football season. That's scary. That is scary how fast it's going by. We're already 4 weeks into the NFL season. That's almost 25% of the season right there. Let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy the heck out of this while we've still got it, ladies and gentlemen. Football is the absolute best. I can't thank you guys enough for tuning in on this Monday. We will be live this Friday, breaking down the entire college football slate, breaking down the entire NFL slate for weeks 5 and week 6 for the NFL and for college football. And we'll also be talking some Thursday night football where the Rams host the San Francisco 49ers. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys have a great rest of your week. My name is Caden Kubler, and thank you guys so much for watching.